Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, first of all, for coming along to my session. So I'm Ronald. I work in the product management team for Oracle Digital Assistant. And what I wanted to do in this presentation was, I've got some slides that I just want to show to set the scene, but this is a technical primer. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time jumping into demos as well. And feel free if you want to ask questions as well. I'm more than happy to take questions. So, has anyone been building digital assistants or chatbots yet? Okay, 1, 2. So, well, let me start just at the beginning and go over a kind of level set. You know, what is a digital assistant? What's it useful? How is it different from a chatbot? Now, I've been building and been involved in chatbots the last couple of years in Oracle, and until now, chatbots have solved quite simple business problems, okay? They're very singular, okay? You have a chatbot for HR, a chatbot for booking a room, a chatbot for ordering pizza, okay? And you talk to that bot to complete that one task, which is fine. It's a good start, but really where we're moving and where we see chatbots moving is what we call the idea of digital assistant. And the idea of a digital assistant is almost like an assistant at work. You just turn around to this person and say, hey, can you book a room for me? Or can you start this HR process? Or can you give me some reports from the sales organization? So I don't have to find the right person to ask. I find the digital assistant, or I speak to the digital assistant, and the digital assistant is the one which works out, well, who do I need to ask to make that thing happen? We're also looking at, how digital assistants are context aware. So if me as the sales manager ask my digital assistant, give me the weekly reports, then it should understand through context that, well, you're the sales manager, so we'll give you the sales reports. Whereas if the HR manager asks the same question, the digital assistant should understand the context and give them the HR reports. So there's an idea here that we are assembling multiple skills under a digital assistant. They are context aware and they learn about the user. Okay, so they understand the user and the responses will be particular to the user who's speaking to the digital assistant. So the digital assistant is simply a computer program that uses AI and machine learning to understand natural human language and combine that using many different chatbots or skills under one single kind of interface. That's the digital assistant. And here's kind of how we envisage this happening, and this is a big area within Oracle now, that within our SaaS teams, they're building digital assistants as well. And the vision we have here is that, any team or application can build skills, we assemble those under a digital assistant. So, using some sort of marketplace, I might say, oh, look, I need an HR. So we'll get the HR. I need some sales digital assistant. Well, I'll bring those in from here. And I need a room booking digital assistant. Well, here's one here. And I assemble them together under my digital assistant for my company or my department, and we expose those on multiple channels. Now, in the demos, I'll just be using the web or the test channel, but equally this could be voice, okay? So I could say, Alexa, please ask the Oracle Digital Assistant to start the appraisal process for Frank, okay? And it will understand that, well, Frank's in my team, so we know what Frank that is. And we can ask the same digital assistant, can you book a room next week for that meeting? And it will know that, well, that's a meeting for Frank and Grant, okay? But it's a different skill within that digital assistant. So Oracle Digital Assistant, or ODA, as we sometimes call it, is the service that we are providing for building digital assistants and skills. And hopefully, if you've got time at the end of this session, we're running a hands-on lab, so you can actually build a digital assistant. Many of the things I'll demo today, you can actually build and take away with you today as well. Okay, so within Oracle Digital Assistant, there are kind of 4 major building blocks that you build. The first is the skill. Okay, so what we have been calling, and what I sometimes still call a chatbot, we call a skill now. And the skill is an individual chatbot that uses artificial intelligence to understand user requests and do whatever you want that, or you've developed that chatbot to do. And that skill can be exposed on many different messaging channels like Alexa or Facebook Messenger or web. The digital assistant is like the master bot. It's the umbrella. It's the one you actually talk to, and you can assemble multiple skills under that. So I have an Oracle digital assistant. I could ask that Oracle digital assistant, book me a room, and it works out which skill it has to speak to in order to do room booking. And I can ask the same digital assistant, order me coffees and pizzas for that meeting, and we have a different skill which gets invoked. You expose either your skills or your digital assistants on a channel. As I said, channel can be something like web, Facebook Messenger, WeChat, or voice channels like Alexa, Google Home as well. And one of the most popular channels we have for customers today is actually web channel. So quite often people or companies will embed a chat widget inside their corporate web page, and that's where people go to chat to the company. And the last kind of pillar is the idea of having a skills store, so that, within Oracle, for example, our HCM team will develop an HCM skill, and you could, pay or subscribe to use that skill. Or as a partner, you could develop a skill, and that could be deployed in some sort of store for people to use. And here's the kind of architecture picture of how all this sits down. We have an individual skills that understand the intent or what people ask, connect to back-end systems. Many skills sit within inside a digital assistant, and the digital assistant itself has intelligent routing, so that it knows when you ask the digital assistant the question, which skill does it have to route that request to? And in some cases it won't be clear, and the digital assistant will ask you, do you mean this thing or this thing? That's okay to do as well, which is kind of what we would do as humans as well. If somebody said, get me the report, I would say, what report do you want? That's okay. And then this whole thing gets exposed on channels. Okay, so that's the big picture. That's digital assistant, the building blocks. Let's go in and start showing you how you start building these things. How do you build a skill? Well, here's a simple example of a skill, and I guess because I'm in Italy, we've made it pizza, but it could have been anything. I want to order a pizza. Sure, let's get that started. What time do you want it delivered? Pizza's delivered, okay? Now, in that process, there are 4 or 5 elements to make that thing work. Every skill, okay, usually relates to a business domain, okay? So I have a skill for pizza, okay? I have a skill for HR. I have a skill for room booking, okay? Yes, I could put them all into one skill, but it makes sense to keep them separate. Within each skill, you have what are called intents. And an intent is the use case that that skill will implement. So, in the pizza skill, we would have an intent for ordering pizza, an intent for cancelling, tracking your order, show menu, okay? So an intent. And what the NLP, the natural language processing engine, has to do, that if I say to it, get me pizza, it has to work out, well, look, does that map to this intent or this intent or this intent? That's what the language processing is doing. And that's here. And your conversation is designed inside a dialogue, because quite often, for example, ordering a pizza involves questions back and forward. And so we have a conversation, and at the end of it, you get a pizza. The final thing to bring in is something called entities, okay? The pizza I order is different from the pizza you order, your order, okay? And it's different because we get different sizes, different toppings, different crust, etc. Each of those variable elements is what's called an entity. So when I say I want a pepperoni pizza, we have to extract out the fact that, well, pepperoni was a topping, okay? Because that's going to be different when somebody else asks. And typically those entities map to some sort of back-end data or parameter that you've got to pass. Okay, so that's the slides for the moment. Let's show some of this stuff in a demo. Okay, so here is Oracle Digital Assistant. I've got a very simple bot which can order pizza or it welcomes you. Okay, so very simple. And I can test it in here. I want to order pizza. Okay. Now, it understands that as being an order pizza intent, and we go through a dialogue. Okay. People have to stop tweeting and using the network, okay? It's slowing down. Okay, one more time. Let's do something very quickly. Okay, there we go. So I want to order a pizza. Ask me what kind of pizza I want. Let's have a medium pizza, the type of pizza. And there we go. You've ordered a medium pizza. Now, equally, if I want to say I want to order a veggie small pizza, it's not going to ask me what size of toppings. Okay, so there's an intelligence there that once we get the entity values, that if we understand that you have said one of those values, we don't try to extract it. So there's a very simple example. Now let's see how that's built. There we can see order pizza, and I've created two entities: pizza size, which is these things here, and pizza toppings, which is these things here. Okay, and here's the dialogue flow, the conversation. And it's actually quite simple here. I've got a step which system.intent just means ask the user, get input from the user. And I will run it through my natural language processing engine, and I will work out if somebody has, if it's order pizza, we do this step. If it's welcome pizza, we do here. So it's order pizza, goes to start order pizza. We output a message. Okay, let's get started. And then we call this thing which will resolve the pizza size entity, assuming you've not already said it. And there is the message we print out telling you you've ordered your pizza. Okay, so very simple dialogue flow. Now let's imagine we want to add, and these are the training phrases. Okay. Now it's important to recognize that this is just a demo, so we've only got a small number of training phrases, but what we'll do is that we'll use artificial intelligence to create a model. So this isn't doing a string match. It's actually creating a language model to understand if I ask that in a different way, it would still recognize it as being about pizzas. So how do I create a new intent? Well, let's just say we've got a new intent for showing the menu. Okay? And what I need to do is supply some sample phrases so that the bot understands, well, what is showing menu, okay? So, I want to see the menu. Show me menu. Show the menu. What pizza is on the menu? Do you have a menu? Okay? And I hit train, and that will now train the language model that should now, if I ask phrases kind of like this, but not exactly, it would understand that as being show pizza, okay? Now, if I add that to the dialog flow, I've got show menu. What I need to do is now cater the fact that we might have start, show, menu. So now what we're saying is, if I understand what you've said is being show menu, go to this part here. Okay? So I need to create a step, and I'll just copy one I've got already. And we call it start, show, menu. And we say, here is the menu. Okay? So now if I test that and I say something like, I would like to see your menu, please. We go to the step of menu, okay? And obviously, that is not one of the phrases I've trained it with, but it's understood the structure of the sentence and the semantics and the closeness of words within language that we can still recognize that. Now, I mentioned that we have entities, okay? And you'll notice order pizza looks for the pizza size and the pizza topping, okay? Whereas show menu doesn't. It's perfect. Let's imagine we now have the ability to order pizzas for different times of the day or different days of the week. We can order in advance. So I need to know the time or the date. So I can add a built-in entity called date. Okay? Train the model. Now that means that whenever I ask anything about order a pizza, it will also look and see if it understands if I've said any dates in that. So if I say, well, let's do it here, a tester here. I want a pizza on Friday. Friday the 5th of April, that's tomorrow, that's right. But I could equally say I want a pizza. It is genuine, I promise you. Next Friday. Then understands next Friday as being Friday in a bit. Okay, so it's got intelligence about dates. And let's say I don't know what customs are like in Italy, but I want a pizza on Easter. Okay, then it recognizes that Easter is April 21st. Okay, so we can dates are not just saying explicit dates. I could easily say I want a pizza tomorrow, and it understands that as well. Okay, so we can build a reasonably intelligent skill, no code. Obviously, we haven't integrated it with anything like a back-end system yet, but there's the basics of building a skill. Okay? Now, one of the key things, and you saw in the pizza example, is what we call the happy path. If I ask you a question, what pizza do you want? I want pepperoni. What size do you want? Large. What crust do you want? Thin. Then the world is a perfect place. But that doesn't happen, okay? What happens is things like this. I want to order a pizza. Let's get it for you. Oh, actually, can you just make it a medium pizza? Oh, and can we maybe get something else? And can we swap this topping? And, oh, can you make it 11:30? And actually, I need 2 bottles of Coke and a can of Fanta, and suddenly, how do you, as a conversation designer, cope with the fact that anyone could fall off the happy path and do that, okay? And let's face it, it's very frustrating for you as a user if you order your pizza and then it says, what time do you want it delivered? And you say, oh, sorry, make it a large. What time do you want it delivered? No, I want a large pizza. What time do you want it delivered? It suddenly becomes a very frustrating process, okay? So in the real world, there are problems which have to be solved. So for example, ordering a pizza has many different entities. People might say things out of order. So when you're asked what time, you might say, oh, can you make it a large pizza? Because we've got some friends coming around. Validation, okay? I don't want to get to the end of the pizza order and then be told, well, I'm sorry, the store closes at 11 o'clock. It's too late. You could tell me that at the beginning. Do you allow multiple values? okay? So, for example, I wouldn't say, can I have a large, small pizza? But I could say, can I have a pizza with pepperoni and tomato? Okay, I can ask for 2 things, 3 things. But some entities don't. You might want to have error handling, different prompts. So rather than telling the user the same error message, every time they get something wrong, you give them a little bit more information. And this is a really important thing for our own teams in Oracle building this as well, is that you don't have to ask every question. Sometimes you can assume the information. So for example, 95% of people ordering a pizza order on the regular base. Okay, so there's no point, or it's frustrating for 95% of the users to have to be asked the question, what base? And you say, oh, just the regular. But you want to be able to handle the fact if somebody says, I want a gluten-free pizza. So you should be able to listen for values even though you don't specifically prompt for them. So how do we do this? And this is a feature in Digital Assistant which is incredibly important, something called a composite bag. Composite bag is a bag of entities, okay? So for example, I'm creating something called a pizza bag which has these 3 things in it. And for each of these 3 things, I can set properties like, what's the error message? Do we prompt for disambiguation? Okay, meaning if you say I want a large, small pizza, do we ask, well, sorry, you've got to choose one of those things. Out of order extraction, that means, will I accept you telling me a new value for pizza size after I've already asked you for it, so somewhere else down the conversation. So all these things. Now the point is that it's the responsibility of the composite bag to get all these values. You don't have to explicitly write the conversation to handle all those different use cases. So for example, and this is what it looks like in code, I create a variable of type pizza order, which is a composite bag. The user says, a cheese pizza, please. So we know he said cheese, but we don't know these things here. So the framework will automatically ask for pizza size, and if you get it wrong, it will give you the error message. And then it will ask you for the pizza crust. And if you get it wrong or you put a validation rule on it that the user breaks, then it will take care of doing it for you. So, back to the demos. Let's show this in action. So let's go to this skill here that I've created. So I want a pizza. Okay, what size of pizza? We want a medium, veggie. When we could deliver that for you, 9 p.m. And what address? My home. Okay, there we go, getting you the pizza. Okay, so it's gathered all these things. But let's look at how it can deal with when we do something different. Let's say I want a large, small pizza. Okay, sorry, we can only select one pizza size, and it shows me, well, I understood you said large and small, which one is it? Okay, so let's do something crazy. Let's say I want a huge pizza. Now here the error message, sorry, huge is not a valid size of pizza. Please choose small, medium, or large. Okay, but I'm going to be silly again. Massive. Okay, and again, it's not going to let me accept those values. So what it's doing is it's preventing incorrect values, and it can give me different error messages depending on what I put in here. Okay, one more time. and again, okay, let's connect you with someone to help. Okay, so you're obviously too stupid to use a chatbot. We'll connect you to a human, which is one of the get-out clauses we always suggest. Okay, so let's try something a little bit different now. Let's say I want a pizza. Okay, let's medium, veggie. And at this point, the phone rings and somebody says, hey, we're all coming round for dinner at your house. We can say, actually, can you make it a large? I've updated that pizza. So at the point we were asked for a time, I've ignored that and I've said, well, actually, make it a large pizza, no problem. When do you want that delivered? 9 p.m. Let's do home. And then we'll say we're getting a large veggie. So it's updated that out of order. Let's try something else. I want a pizza veggie small, okay? So we don't ask for the other questions because it already knows it's a small. When can we deliver that for you? 11 p.m. Sorry, we only deliver up to 9:30. Okay, so we've put some business rule validation on there. Okay, in which case 9 p.m. Now, here's a neat thing, and this is, again, a use case that came from our own apps team. When I am asked for an address, the entity is of type address, which has to be a valid address, okay? But I've put in home, okay? Say home delivery, please. Now, what it's doing is, although the word home is not a valid address, okay? It's not a valid address. What I've done here is I've set up this entity such that it will allow me to have valid addresses, or it will accept words like home to my house, my flat, apartment, those kind of things. Because what I would do in this case is that, let's just say that I'm validated with a bot and it knows that I'm Grant. I want it to accept that home is in fact a valid type of address. So I'll be able to do that. And the reason that the use case that originally came from was our apps teams, when it asks to upload a receipt, okay, because we have a chatbot for doing expenses, and the person didn't upload the receipt. What they did was said, I'm sorry, I've lost it, okay? So we had to handle the case that this is what we're expecting, or this is what we want, but we're willing to also accept these values at this point as well. And you'll also notice that it's always getting me a regular base pizza, okay, even though I haven't specifically asked, but if I wanted a gluten-free, I could ask for that. So let's look at the code for that and see how this is implemented. The first thing to note, let me just jump to the dialog flow. All of that functionality in terms of dealing with it is 11 lines, okay? It's one step, or what we call a component. But the way we do this is look at pizza size, for example. So pizza size is of type pizza size. Here are the prompts, okay? So it will cycle, if I get the wrong size, it cycles through these different labels or different prompts. I can set prompt for disambiguation. That means you're only allowed to put one value for a pizza size. And if somebody says 2 values or 3 values, then prompt to say, I only want, okay? So pizza size, you can only have one value, but pizza topping, we can have multiple values. Out of order extraction, if I set that on, that's the ability for me to accept a pizza size at any point within that part of the conversation. So that's how we deal with that. And the last one I'll show you how we implemented it is delivery time. I said delivery time. And look at this code, and apologies for those, it's quite small, but what it's saying is, if the value of delivery time in hours, and converted to a number, is less than 10, then great, that's valid. Meaning if it's later than 10, then we want to fail and so put out this error message, which is, sorry, we only deliver up to 9:30. Okay, so we can put validation at each of those steps as well. So that's how we deal with real-world entity, what we call entity slotting. Now, I'll do this part very quickly, but I just want it to be clear that there's much more that a bot or a skill can do than just having a conversation. For example, one of the big use cases we have for chatbots is dealing with frequently asked questions, or Q&A. Now, quite often companies have those on your website. You know, what time do you open? What time do you close? What's your returns policy? Those are very simple question and answers, and we have a feature allowing you to load in your FAQs into the bot and train it, and it has a slightly neat interface in that when it recognizes a question and it answers it, it puts on one of the carousel components, which means it allows you to scroll through related articles. So anything that's related, that it finds related to that question that it found in the Q&A, you can also look through those as well. There's an example we could often come up with where sometimes a conversation interface can be more difficult if you're trying to get structured data. And so we have this ability to embed what we call a web view, essentially a web form inside the conversation. So if at some point in the conversation you have to get some structured data like credit card details, it might actually be easier, rather than keep asking the user, is to inject these. And these are just basically web apps that you can build using any technology and embed within the conversation channel. Human agent integration is another big area. You saw that when the pizza failed, the ordering pizza, we pass you off to a human agent, okay? But equally, we have a number of customers where we put the bot in front of the call center. So rather than 20,000 people a week calling the call center, 20,000 people come to the chatbot first, and if the chatbot can answer their questions, then it's less calls that are going to the call center. And I've worked with a number of customers in where it's, you know, regions of about 30 or 40% of all interactions are now being handled by the bot. Because a lot of the time people are just saying, can you reset my password? Okay, or something like that. I should move around more or dance. I recognize that in my world everybody speaks English, but I have that fortunate thing of speaking English that no one else has to worry about. But we allow you to build multi-language bots. And there's a number of ways of doing this, but the one I'm showing here is using on-the-fly translation services. So for example, you could build a single bot, but depending if the people speak to it in English or Italian or French or Spanish, it will use translation services on the fly to work out, well, look, if you've asked in this language, I'm going to translate it back into English, use that in our natural language processing, and then when I respond back, I will respond back in your native language the way you spoke to me, using things like resource bundles. So it allows you to build multi-language bots. And of course, what I haven't really shown you today, but is hugely important, is that when you are ordering a pizza, at some point you want to integrate to a back-end system that actually kicks off the process. And we allow you to create connectors from the chatbot into any back-end system that exposes an API, like a REST API. And the final thing is, having spent the effort of building a chatbot, how do you know it's been successful? And we have an analytics dashboard. So every time the user interacts with the chatbot, asks it a question, if the bot doesn't understand it, or the conversation fails at some point, then we can view that on the analytic dashboard. So what were the top intents? You know, what were most people asking the bot? What were the things that the bot didn't understand? Okay? Because it's important that when you're training your language model, you can train it using the data that actual users use to talk to your bot. So you would typically take your conversation logs that you get from like running your bot for a week and then using that to retrain the bot to make it smarter. So the idea is your bot gets smarter every week because it's been trained on data that your users use to talk to the bot. Okay, so that's skills. I've talked about digital assistants. How do we bring this stuff all under a digital assistant? And as I said, you have this idea that skills can be published in a catalogue, and you simply decide which skills you want to appear under your digital assistant. And it's a simple case of just selecting them and adding them to be your digital assistant. Now, what this means is that every time somebody talks to your chatbot, it comes through the digital assistant, and it's the digital assistant that decides how to route that. So if I say, I want a pizza, it's the digital assistant that says, I'm getting a very high confidence score if I call the pizza skill with this. If I ask what's my balance, then we can navigate to a different skill. But one point that makes this massively important is what we call non sequitur, when you go off topic, kind of like I do often when I'm presenting. But let's say I'm ordering a pizza, okay? And it says, what size of pizza do you want? And I think, well, wait a minute. If I've got enough money in my bank, I can order a big pizza. So in the middle of the pizza conversation, I say, do I have enough money? Okay? Now that input will go into the digital assistant. It will say, oh, wait a minute. This isn't a pizza conversation, but I recognize this as banking. You're asking me about how much money you have. The digital assistant can then either ask the user or seamlessly move you over and say, okay, do you want to check your balance now? Yes, please. Okay, you've got $200 in your account. We go back to the pizza skill and now say, okay, carry on with pizza. Yeah, okay, I have a large pizza, I've got enough money. And that's a massively important feature that we allow you to be able to switch skills in the middle of a conversation, but also switch to different intents within the same conversation. Okay? So in the middle of ordering my pizza, I could say, show me the menu. And suddenly we're jumping into a different intent. But as soon as we've showed the pizza menu, we jump back to where we were. And as I mentioned, we have these system dialogues that appear that you can tune. So if you want to explicitly ask the user, do you want to move into this new skill now? We can do that, or you can seamlessly move in as well. Okay, so let's show that in the demo. I go to my digital assistant, I find my digital assistant, and you'll see my digital assistant has been registered with 3 different skills, okay? One for pizza, one for banking, and one for retail. And I can add skills from here, but I've got enough here. Now let's just test this out. Now the first thing is, and this happens often, is people don't know kind of what the bot does, so they might just say hi. Okay, hi. Now, because hi is not one of the things that each of the skills does, but the digital assistant recognizes it as a kind of keyword about, okay, you're not sure what to do here, and it shows me what are the registered skills, okay? So I want to order from Pizza King. So it's a way of discovering what the skill does. So order from Pizza King, how old are you? I'm 19. I want to order pizza. Let's have a thin pizza. Now, at this point where I'm going to be asked what size of pizza I want, let's just do something crazy. How much money do I have in checking? Nothing to do with pizzas. Do you want to switch to cash bank now? And again, I can configure this to do it automatically. Yes. Okay? There are your balances. Oh, we've got plenty of money for pizza. Let's carry on pizza. And you can kind of see here on the tester where we have navigated from the pizza conversation. We've jumped into another conversation. And I could even jump, what is my gift card balance. Now, here's an example where you've asked me something, but I'm not 100% sure. Do you mean you want to check your gift card balance in your store or in your bank? Which one is it? Which is a reasonable question to ask. Well, it's actually in the store, my store gift card. What's your gift card number? And here you can see we've jumped into another level of conversation. GC 101. Okay, let's get back to ordering pizzas. Fantastic. Let's have a small pizza. Pepperoni. And the small pepperoni pizza is on its way. Okay? So you can see now, I use this as an example. It was easy to understand, but think about the situation. I ask my digital assistant, okay, whose appraisal is due in the next 3 weeks? And it comes back and says, okay, Frank's appraisal is due next week. Great. Can you book a room for me and Frank to have a meeting? Suddenly we've moved from the HR skill into a room booking skill. No problem. We pass context, so we know it's Frank and Grant that have to be invited. And then, in the middle of that conversation, can you order me some teas and coffees at that room as well? Well, that's into a catering skill. Now, the last thing I'll show you, just because time is really short, is this is within the digital assistant tool itself. But here, I've connected that bot up to a web page. It's just a very simple web page, but you can imagine if this is branded with your company logos, etc., you could embed this in your website and you say, hi there. Okay, here's the things we can do. Let's order pizza. How old are you? 29. And we go through the pizza order process. And this is where many of our customers actually deploy their bots, is through their corporate web pages. Okay? So, that last thing was me hooking that up into the web channel. Now, I'm hoping that I've excited you and to see all the great things Oracle Digital Assistant can do. We are running a lab on the second floor at 4 o'clock. And to be honest with you, if you want to come up and try that, it's bring your own device. You can get a cloud credit to create your own environment, and then there's a hands-on lab that will build exactly what I've shown today, okay? A rich digital assistant that does a number of different things, including things like the rich entity extraction and routing between different things as well. So you're also welcome to come up and if you've asked any questions. I think I've got about a minute left. Are there any questions? Yes?
Regarding the delivery pizza, I guess this restaurant will have a working calendar. So the answer should be calibrated over working hours, holidays, closing days.
You mean you want to have the bot available only at certain times?
Of course.
Absolutely. And in fact, this
calendar must be declared maybe externally.
Absolutely, and there's a number of things you could do in that. You could keep your bot always on, okay? But the first thing the bot does in the conversation is check, when you interact with the bot for the first time, what's the time? Let's check that against the store's opening hours, and if the bot is closed, let's give a nice message that says, I'm really sorry, but it'd be great if you can come back tomorrow at this time. And that's actually, as I said, what a number of our customers do, where the bot fronts their call center, okay? If the call center is closed, the bot will say hello, it will take the question, but it will give them details of when to call back. So absolutely, that's something you could do.
So is it possible internally with the system?
Absolutely.
Not with a code or something?
If you want to hard code the fact that your bot is only available from 9 a.m. till 12 midnight, then you can write that within each of the steps of the conversation. You can set a variable and check that variable and decide if you want to do. So absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your attention. If there's any questions, you can come up or I'll see you at the hands-on lab. Thank you very much.